We have YouTube.
We are live on YouTube.
Now I've got to go live on there.
Just
Live
Facebook
on
and
that. Let's
LinkedIn.
look at this. I'm so organized today. We're live on all three really quickly. Yay!
Sweet.
So, as far as I know, that is all working. Welcome back to the Self Help Bookshelf, another High Leverage Actions podcast. And this week we are talking about neurodivergent scatter to structure using calendars and schedules, which is another big topic for both of us, especially running businesses, but even for parents and people working in other busy offices, living whatever manic lives we do because we love it. Or whether it is that you're trying to come out of a difficult place and get your life back on track. There's something here for you today. I don't know what it is yet, but we're going to find out.
Excellent. Thank you, Kay. And yeah, thanks for being here and watching. If you're here on the live, then give us a little hello, or if there's a comment or highlights or anything, the insights that come from this, repeating it, saying it, declaring it, writing it, sharing it, ripples effects. It builds up the neuro rememberings of our what we want to create and what we want to do. So anything that you get from it, um, feel free to share it, and that's manifests it out from thoughts to action to reality. And also what you get from this will other people will get from it too. So let's share the love with all of that, like, share, and all those lovely, wonderful things. And finally, what was I going to say? It was something to do with um, it's something to do with
This is why we use schedules and calendars and memory lists.
memory lists. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, it was something. It was something I was
It'll
going to say.
come back. Anyway, in the meantime, it looks like we are live on Facebook and YouTube. LinkedIn has failed to connect through. So we will upload it there later on or share the replay from YouTube later on.
That's what it was. Yeah. If you're watching the replay, but hashtag replay.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because this all helps not just our algorithms help the self-help bookshelf grow, which helps more people, but it helps other people find the information that right now you may not know they need, but it might be the very thing that makes a big difference to somebody else's week through a like, a share, a comment, a post. Just even watching, for yourself helps to push those algorithms. So yes, any support, welcome. And on this week as well, with calendars and schedules. Oh my goodness, this has been so important for me. So this week, Rory, because I've got my book launch coming on Thursday. And I'll tell you, all I'm doing this week is my calendar is so packed out with things to do. So I've got this coming 30 love values this week. I'm going to throw that in quick before we forget. So if anybody wants to know more about that before Thursday, check out the links afterwards and we'll put the link to the event booking. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. Lots happening.
Amazing.
Lots
Yeah.
happening.
Forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how has it been for you with calendars and schedules in the past, Kay?
Wow. Now, that's a very broad question for me because having a very strong admin background, calendars and schedules have been something I've majorly mismanaged on a personal level, while on a business level, I've managed I've managed the calendar schedules of an entire office and management team. So it's been two complete polar opposites for me. And for my own, if I don't sit in front of somebody and they says, oh, let's reschedule or book an appointment, if I don't literally pick my phone up in that very moment and key it in there and then, I will forget it. And if I forget to pencil it in or write it in when I get home, I will not be turning up because it's not on my calendar. So everything I do, and somebody says, oh, let's schedule something, my phone gets picked up immediately and it goes straight on that calendar. But then there's also those times when we say, oh, yes, I'll do that. And someone says, are you free? And in my head, I'm going, oh, yes, I'm free on that day. So I book something in, but then I forget something else I've promised someone and I end up double booking. Um, and the other one is when I do put things in, but I've put them in on the wrong day. So I don't turn up on the right day. for a meeting, which is great if it's online, it's not too bad. But when you drive miles and they say, oh, you're a day early or a week early or a week late, it's like, oops. So it can be very embarrassing, it can be frustrating. So there's a lot of emotions come about from it as well, where it's confusing, like, oh, was I meant to turn up for that today or next week? And then because I have we talk about different forms of dyslexia, for me it's remembering dates and times are very, very difficult. So again, if it's not on my calendar, I can't remember what I'm supposed to be going to, where, and when. And I'm constantly having to go back to it time and time again, even every day. Like, I know I had like 6 meetings in a row today, but after every meeting, I've got to go back and check what was the next one, what was the next one. Well, some people would just know their whole week's commitment in their head. No chance for me. So I do rely very, very heavily on my calendar schedule.
Mm. Oh, yeah, thanks for sharing. That's reminded me of a time when I was unable to even write things down. I had this massive resistance to because I hadn't learned how to log things on paper at all. I didn't even have a diary for for like 20 years. Um, um, and I just because I couldn't even remember to put things in the diary, and then I'd be upset about that, and then so I was just running on intuition all the time, which um is great if you're in flow and emotionally clear and connected, but then other times, yeah, I had a very optimistic version of reality playing out, which actually didn't help for some things because that doesn't really help when you think, oh, I used to think, okay, it's going to take me this long to get to here. Uh, and that would be the most optimal, no problems, knowing exactly where I'm going to go and how long it will take if there was no delays whatsoever, all that stuff. And then I would leave 15 minutes later because I hadn't got the other things sorted before doing that process. I'd always be about 15 minutes later than wherever if it was work. That was like when it's important to show that you're on it. And then if it was a social engagement, I might be 3 or 4 hours later than the actual thing, depending on how long the thing is. But
Walk
yeah,
in as everyone's leaving, yeah.
it was crazy. It was crazy how I'd just be on this really fantasy timeline. Which was interesting to see because some things would play out in different ways. I'd see a different side of reality that wasn't about like, why aren't you here or why are you not there? I'd just be in flow with seeing what happens coming to me. Um, and it was joyful at points, but I'd end up like losing jobs. People would just eventually give up on me for this particular thing. And then I'd realized that that was a self-trust thing that was reinforcing itself the whole time. And it took quite a lot of training and reflective practice and realizing that how that pl would play out wouldn't be helping my psychology going forwards. And so anything to do with that sort of trusting myself. I trust myself with myself, but I realized I wasn't showing up in the way that was reliable for anything other than just being in flow with how I felt.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help get things done on the bigger scale at all. It doesn't help with long-term relationships, long-term jobs, long-term anything, especially then wanting to design something for myself and get something out that I wanted to get out.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, that's what used to happen, and
Yeah.
now yeah, I'm happy to
Yeah.
share more about that later in a minute.
Yes, come around to that because that's an extremely vulnerable share from you, Rory, and thank you. And it does highlight, as much as you know, we started off with high energy on this conversation because we know the other end of this now. It is a serious problem for so many people. And I know I've had those times when I really could not manage a simple diary, when I used to carry the little mini 8 paper ones and pencil everything in. Well, now I've got so many meetings in a day, I'd never fit them all into like a 1 week little page. But even running a family little paper diary, I could never manage it very well. And yet in an office where I'd got full schedules laid out, it made a big difference and it was very focused. But I still would miss things, put them in the wrong day, put the wrong people on, forget to invite someone, or you type somebody's name and click OK to accept the auto suggest, and it was the wrong person, same first name, different surname. So I've done all of that in the past. And there is this big thing about then, like you said, that you feel like you're not perfect, like you can never do anything right, you can't do it good enough. And it's like every week making mistakes with the diary, even in that position, because that's part of the ADHD focus, or rushing through things because there was a deadline. But at the same time, it does have a massive impact. So that was the calendar side of it. But then there's schedules as well. And that's, again, one that's come into big play for me this week, because having the book launch in the calendar is one thing, but the schedule to me is the lineup of events that's going to happen, not only while we are on the event, because there's a number of things happening during the book launch, but then there's also this whole schedule of things that I need to do between now and then to make sure everybody's got their invites, that they follow through and book the event tickets, and that people who are going to be there speaking know what they're doing and get their invite links, because they're not paying, they'll come in on a separate link and so on. And making sure that everybody is followed up. And whatever we're planning, even right through to levels of like wedding and big event planning, there's always a schedule of events to do before, during, and after the event itself. And the schedules, again, are really, really important. So it might not be deadlines, do this task by this deadline, this task by this deadline, but to have that kind of fluid pathway of getting it done by the event, or knowing that by the time I get to the event, which ones were not so important if I missed them off the list. So it's working in priority order. So it's prioritizing, scheduling, calendar, rigorous scheduling on the calendar. And it's this combination of all of them that when we can apply that, not only for things we've got to do, but things we want to do as well. And this is where I think it's going to be great, trigger you off on the next bit, is being neurodivergent. When we can start using these calendars and schedules for things we want to do, and making space for that self-care, as well as the important things like going and signing on for your job benefits, turning up for that interview, being at work on time, not forgetting. But on birthdays is another one. I'm dreadful at birthdays. I'm still working on that one. And always somebody's birthday gets forgotten, and I'm sure they think I don't love them, and it's not intentional. Again, it's this mismanagement of things with the ADHD. And so there's lots of reasons here where we can actually make life a lot easier. I've given up striving for perfection, and I've learned to accept that I am who I am, and I'm going to do the best that I can for being me, but really make an effort for it to be my best, not necessarily someone else's best. And by taking that pressure off, it instantly actually allows me to do even better for a start, rather than applying all that pressure and negative self-talk and judgment and defeating myself in the process. So I'm going to hand back to you, Rory, but thank you for your wonderful share today, because it really is a big issue for so many people managing this. So let's have a look and see what we can do to help them.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so like what you said about fluidity, there's this idea of chaos and structure. Chaos being stuff that can't control or don't feel like we can control, that changes things, that something may come along, and the chaos may be that we've learnt to respond to that, that drives us away from staying focused on what we do want, and or what that is around how we manage this idea of free thought, free flowing life, interactions with people that come along, that if we're not adaptable to the chaos and we're trying to stay rigid to it, which is what I was very flow, very what some people may call chaotic, but at the same time, it's actually a really good way to be adaptable to anything that's coming, and just to go, "Okay, well, that doesn't matter so much in the moment.
Mm.
In the moment, that's the key piece. To be fluid in the moment is important, and then the actual where do I want to go with this thing? Having a vision of what that looks like. The as I say, a project in itself is, what do I see that could be, and how will that, why do I want that? What's important about that? And so that's like that bit piece needs to be there. Otherwise, it's just doing, trying to stay just trying to stay fluid in the moment without a drive, without a focus, a direction. So it's about staying on target, but going with the flow of it. But so there's that chaos, and then there's the structure piece, which is they're happening all at the same time. It's like you see a tree that's got a structure, it's strong, it, but the wind comes along, and it moves with it. It's flexible, and so the wind could come along in different changes at any moment. That's the chaos, and then the structure is that it's staying true to itself. It's staying true to its design. It's got the energy flow to it. It doesn't question any of that, probably. So that idea of chaos and structure, and how we plan for the structure, and then how do we plan for being able to be fluid in the moment whilst heading in a overall direction to what we want, and how many pieces of that puzzle to that full picture of that end result is what we could look at, going, okay, well, that's the bit that goes in the diary. Those are the bits that go in the diary that are the pieces of the puzzle. That's what will drive me to actually using a paper, or writing something down, or putting it and logging it and saying, this is what I want to do when, because it's going to get me over there. And so, and maybe some other people might be very, very structured and have to have everything in place. So the more OCD side of things, which is like the anxiety of things going wrong or being different to what is wanted. And what is it that's actually wanted? It has to be learned to be flexible, and the vice versa. Those that are too flexible get to work into their rigidity and their rigorousness and their committedness to doing those things. So it's like we can't just stay in bed all day, uh, unless it's a day for recovery, and that's okay too. But that's a different thing. That's a different thing, and it's like what are we repeating, and where do we naturally feel like we fit in, and where do we want to get better? What do we want to get better at? Saying a lot there, but that's the idea that of fluid planning, fluidity and planning, and why it's important to charge up what's wanted emotionally, knowing that we can make things happen we want to happen, and it requires on doing things with actual chosen deadlines to get things done, and not to make ourselves feel wrong along the way or by the end of it, because some people could be stressed because they're doubting themselves as they get to this point and then get it done. And some people just plow through, get it done, and then will go, well, and then they compare themselves, like say judgment, comparing themselves or the project, and saying, well, it wasn't as good as it could have been or whatever. So it's realizing that all of that sort of emotional charge, noticing what that is it stress, is it overwhelm, is it negativity to getting things done or wanting to get things done, or looking back and going, I didn't get things done, or or all that stuff, that it's about where it's going into the negative, which is important to notice so that we can get better at. But in noticing, not charging it negatively, but discharging negatively. And it's not about just staying positive all the time, uh, but it can become more of a joyful process once we move into that sense of planning and staying focused and getting excited for the deadline.
Yeah, honestly, that's fantastic. And there's so much, like you say, about with the autism, ADHD, and OCD, which all quite um, complementary and contrasting at the same time. And I think it's really is everybody knowing themselves, because there are three factors that, and then obviously neurotypical as well. And there are other things that affect this as well. But when we add in how we feel and emotions, and on top of that, is knowing, like you said, where that rigidity is, where the flexibility is. Some people need more rigidity. I can say it again. I'm having one of those days again. Some people need to be more fixed and scheduled and routine. They need that routine, because without the routine, their emotions feel out of control. Some people need more fluidity and to feel like things flow, because structure and routine feels overwhelming and overpressuring. And so, like you said, it is about finding out how they work together for every individual. But I'm just thinking, is there any, tips that you would recommend for somebody in terms of actual scheduling? What works for you? I mean, I know what works for me, I can share as well in a bit, but what works for you, Rory, in terms of actual practical tips for managing calendars and schedules?
Lovely. I call it neurocreative flow. It's because we get responsible for our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and it comes down to how to manage that and emotionally charge, mentally rehearse. Mental rehearsal before doing anything is useful to go, well, what do I want? When do I want it? Um, how to simplify it so
Mm,
it's actually manageable for the head brain to go tick, I can do that. Because no matter what, if we've got a heart that wants to do something and we've got a gut that wants to take action and do things, and then there's resistance to it because of comparing or doubt or taking away from the moment. That's the key piece. There's the inner resources piece first, which is to sit, imagine, see what resistance may have come up from before, and go, well, when that happens, what will I do instead?
mm,
Uh, and just slowing down and knowing that it's the down piece, imagining and getting it resonant with the outcome. So that's the first piece, is a spending time doing that, and then putting things in the diary without overwhelm, leaving space for fluid planning, leaving space. So initially, until it becomes a habit, it can become more less and less time that's needed to decompress, um, or thinking processes, because it's already been mentally rehearsed before. As soon as it becomes more time mentally rehearsing, then less time uh, in the actually doing and jumping between tasks, and building in relaxation times, active recovery times. So that moment of just switching off and relaxing, breathing, tapping, shaking, uh, ease up some use up some stagnant energy in the body. That process in between two tasks, and the thinking. So what am I going to do? Doing it, decompressing, recharging, reflecting on what was before and what we'll do next, and go round in that little piece there. So, and the last thing I'll say for now is uh how much health time is there, because the inner resources, the energy counts. It's just like playing an instrument, just even that 5 minutes can, with knowing that 5 minutes complete concentration on a particular self-care piece, can completely give us the energy for the next hour or two. it really doesn't take very much time. The more depressed or anxious or difficult things have been, then maybe the more active recovery there is needed. The time space to do that, to build up to staying focused and targeted. So and that's an individual chemistry piece
Mm.
to notice that. So it will change depending on what is focused on and practiced. So the body piece is the instrument, the internal resources, then the external resources is the environment. Is the environment clean and feeling good? Is there, does the project, or does someone need to go somewhere to stay focused on a task that's a different environment? That because environment can change the emotional connection to what's been going on. If it's there's a trying to get stuff done in the midst a learnt pattern of feeling chaotic in a chaotic environment, even if they clean the space, if it's if we're attached to that too much, too for too long, then we'll get reminded of it non-stop. So sometimes it's breaking that pattern, going somewhere else and just saying, I want to work on this, finding a finding a different office environment or a different workspace, no matter what it is, just to refresh and get focused on that. As soon as that happens, other addictive things can sort of go away, or addictions to the usual activities or patterns can go away because it's a new environment. So environment, health, peace, environment, and the people who can help. And so are you putting things in the diary to speak to people that can help, um, who have already done it? So that it's just pointers. That doesn't have to be worked out all yourself, or watching a YouTube video, or spending time researching, then doing and implementing, and then reflecting. It's the same process. It's like empty, relax, clear, plan, or ideas, empty ideas, planning, doing, celebrating, reflecting and sharing on others, and then back to resting and active recovery again. That can happen in a space of 2 hours. It can happen for a whole day. It can happen for a whole project. It can happen for a whole life goal and working out what that is, going from empty to idea to planning to doing to celebrating to sharing to back to empty again, letting go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's some good tips there, Rory. And yeah, there's a lot to practice in there for people and to unpack. And like you said, research how to do it. Because I think for everybody as well, there's going to be slightly different ways to achieve that. Some people will prefer like the traditional paper diary and as simple as possible. And especially when we're adding in dyslexia as well, and you're thinking about things like time blindness, maybe slightly differently. But for people who just very simply need a quick referral and remember to look, a little paper diary in a pocket or handbag might be ideal. These days, like I said, for me, the phone is the biggest bonus for me, being able to keep on track of things, because I'd go out and not remember what's in a paper diary or come home and forget to write in. But as long as my phone is with me, I can check what I've got on, I can check what I need to add on. So that for me is one of the things, is to adapt to using it on the phone. And I still find people who prefer a paper diary who don't have it with them, and then have to go, I'll check when I get home, and then you've got to have an extra point of contact. And for me, it loses the energy of booking things in as well sometimes for some people, especially from a business perspective. Getting those things in the diary and committed to, is having to go home and check a diary almost takes away some of that commitment. And sometimes opportunities are lost. But the other one that's a big tip for me is in terms of managing calendars and schedules, is color coding. So when I look at my diary in the day, I've got a particular color for potential client meetings, one-to-ones, and anybody I'm meeting on Zoom, or online or Teams or WhatsApp, whatever, I have it one color. If it's a network meeting, I have it a different color. If it's an actual booked client, I'll have it a different color. If it's personal, it'll be a different color. And so at a glance, I can see what the priority meetings for the day are. And then the other tip I've got for people when it's saying about being fluid is if I've got a lot of things in the calendar for the day, is in my mind, it's well, if I get overwhelmed and I'm getting a little bit too much going on, which one of those could I potentially reschedule rather than burn out or overstress, or if something runs over or something doesn't play out as it was hoped for the day? Which of those are potentially fluid and can be rescheduled? Because it's sometimes better to take a few minutes earlier in the day to think, well, okay, things have come up I wasn't expecting, rather than miss an appointment or be late for it and have somebody else held up and let down and waiting without knowing what's going on. I feel like it's actually kinder to them for me to say reschedule with a message to say that at least then I can be present when I do turn up and in the right place emotionally. So that's another big tool for, or big reminder for me as a tool, is to be able to be flexible, but in being considering the rescheduling as well. And I know most of the time we do, and sometimes we still forget. It does happen. That's called apologies and whatever other conversations we have to have afterwards, but it happens even for me. But yeah, so I'm just trying to think color coding, rescheduling, like that is part of the flexibility, is that because we've put it in the diary, it's not always 100% fixed, and being forgiving on yourself for having to reschedule sometimes. What else do I use? Reminders, that's the other one, setting reminders. So everything for mine comes up with like a 15-minute reminder. You've got a meeting in 15 minutes or 10 minutes. But if I've got to travel an hour, a 15-minute reminder is no good. So I'm always mindful that when I'm setting a meeting, if it's outside of the home, or I'm going out for a meeting, that I put that reminder to at least a half an hour before I've got to leave the house. So I've got time to finish up what I'm doing and get ready. And if I need time to get ready and travel, I'll put the time of the meeting in, and then I'll also block out a time on the calendar before, because it's all digital. And this is the other thing, because my calendar is linked up to my website, or not my website, but I'm linked up to a calendar where other people can book appointments on my calendar. I have to make sure that if I'm going out and I've got to travel for an hour, I don't want somebody booking that hour. So I will book in the appointment and I will block out that travel time and the time to get ready and just put it all down as prep time or travel time or whatever, or just, time out. But I will make sure I block that as well, so other people can't book that and create more stress for me. Because then again, if I don't do that in that moment, I may then be having to reschedule appointments that I could have avoided having been booked in there in the first place. So for me, it's lots of things like that. It's like I've got to go for an operation next week. So yeah, you're putting the time for your operation, but then it's book it. I just booked the whole day out and just blocked the whole day and said for the whole day, I'm busy, out of office, health day. So I just put it in capital letters, health day. Nothing's going to get booked in that diary for that day. So it's being able to give yourself that space around whatever you're doing. So when you said space, for me, using that space on the calendar is important in protecting it by actually sometimes putting a booking in the calendar to create that space. So that's another big tip from me, is it creates a sense of freedom, then knowing that space is going to stay there for me to do what I need to do. So,
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I love that. It's there's a term called calendar surrender, um, which is basically surrendering to the diary for surrender being like it's actually kind of almost like committing, but also letting go of
yeah,
the mind wanting to control everything by actually putting it in the diary and sticking to one place to go to.
yeah,
Um, and so one place to go to, um, it feels like control sometimes, but it's actually it is, but it's like setting the GPS and knowing exactly where you're going to go rather than like wandering out and seeing what happens. Because at the end of the day, it's the it is the enjoyment. It's making it easy to enjoy doing the things we want to do long term.
Hmm. It
Long,
takes away some of the panic. And I think that was the biggest thing for me is I was getting a big sense of panic around my diary. And when I was coming out of depression, I had really bad mental health issues a few years ago with all the food allergies and that I had. And I had very low cognitive function abilities at the time. And if I had more than 2 meetings in my calendar for a whole week, I was panicking. Like, what if I forget one? What if I miss it? What day is it on? I couldn't, because I could barely remember what day it was myself at the time. And so it was a very difficult time and panic. Now I've got like 6, 8 meetings in a day and I just follow the calendar. But trusting the process, I think, is the key thing. And like you said, by having everything in one place, it makes it easier as well. So everything that clients book in on my calendar, everything that I book in that comes in from emails, whether I do it from my phone, computer, from my tablet, wherever I am, I look at it all from one calendar online, or I can go to it on my phone as well. And it's all linked together technologically. So it took a little while to set up, but it means wherever I am, I'm looking at exactly the same schedules of bookings. And I haven't got to think about anything else except what's on that list. So it took a while to get to that point where I felt confident that I can trust that as long as I've put it on that calendar, I can follow what's on that calendar. And if I didn't have that, well, I might as well just pack the business up now and walk away because I'd never turn up for anything on time. But
yeah.
yeah, it's business away is sometimes there is an element of not feeling like we're being controlled. And we don't necessarily want to feel like we've got to control a life to the moment. But having enough control over my calendar in the right way in return has given me a sense of freedom because I know that in the moment, or what have I got next? Just look at that. And if it's like, oh, I've got an hour's gap, fine. And the other one to do is sometimes is if I go off for a break or I've perhaps not got a meeting on till 1 in the afternoon, I might forget and walk off. So I'll set one of my Echo Dot devices to give me a 20-minute warning or something so that if I've sat down and got hyper focused on something else, it wakes me up and says, oh, by the way, you've got a meeting in 20 minutes, time to get a coffee, go to the toilet, get the computer on. But it's just using all these little tools and tips to override the traits of ADHD for me. I know with the autism, it can be very different. And in how we respond to calendars and schedules and times can be different because time blindness we know is a thing as well where I have before now sat at the computer, right, calendar's on, I've got a meeting in 5 minutes. This one I'm still figuring out how to avoid, but I'm trying not to do this, and occasionally it catches me out. Time blindness, right? I know I've got 5 minutes to a meeting. I can't sit here and do nothing for 5 minutes. That's ADHD for you. I literally cannot sit and do nothing for 30 seconds sometimes. My head goes off down a rabbit hole. I'll check one email while I'm waiting, right? And then 2 hours later, realize I've completely missed the meeting, even though I was sat here 5 minutes before. So it still occasionally happens. And if I do that to anybody, I'm really sorry. And I don't mean to. And I don't think I've done it for quite a while now. But that time blindness can also be an issue. So that's why I've got different things set up to remind me. So when the calendar comes up, 10-minute warning, I make sure I don't hit okay, I hit snooze and I've set it for a 1 minute warning again. So again, it's using all these little tips to make sure that I don't sit down there and think like 10 minutes, I'm sat here, I'm ready, and then go off on time blindness. Because the minute something takes our focus, that ADHD thing in particular, the minute something else gets our focus, time just goes, it vanishes. It really does. And
Mm.
I've known that to be quite extreme in some people where they've got very little concept of time at all. It's almost like time doesn't exist. And so on a more extreme end, it can be even more important to learn to master the art of using calendars and schedules. I mean, one of the funniest times, we've got time for a very quick story here. One of the funniest times I've ever come across time blindness, although it did show the level at which it affects people. I was picking my son up from the bus stop. He was coming home from college, and I went and picked him up every night from the bus stop at the local town, because then it was still several miles back to the house. And I was running a little bit late out of work one night. So I rang him up and said, I will be there in 10 minutes. Do not go anywhere. Okay, mummy says, bearing in mind he's 19 at the time, no, 17, 18 at the time. So he should be old enough to know what 10 minutes is. When I say don't leave the bus stop, I'll be there in 10 minutes. You think that's a nice, clear instruction. So I pulled up at the supermarket, took the 30-second walk up the hill to the bus stop, couldn't find him. And I'm looking up and down the road. I can't find him. And I waited. I thought maybe he's gone off to the bathroom. So I waited because, he'd had an hour's bus journey. It was cold. I thought maybe he's gone to get chips. He might have been hungry. So I wandered a little bit down the road, looked, and he wasn't in the chip shop. And I couldn't find him. And as I was coming back up from the chip shop, I saw his boots, because he had his trainers, and then he used to take work boots because it was agricultural college. And his work boots were sat at the end of the wall outside the chip shop. I'm like, where's he gone? And I couldn't find him. So I rang him up and said, where are you? I've been at the bus stop for ages. He went, oh, I didn't know how long you'd be. I'd gone to play snooker. I had been 8 minutes, and I'd said to him, don't move, I'll be there in 10. But he had no concept of time at all then. And it was really, really difficult for him. So although we sort of laugh about it now, it is, for some people, it can be a really major issue connecting with the concept of time. And so for him as well, having to use calendars and schedules and reminders has been a hard strategy to work on, but we got there in the end. And he's very, I wouldn't say never, but very rarely late for work now. But he manages things so much better than he used to. But again, it was so important that he worked on that, even just for his personal life, around things like that. But yes, so it is a major thing, whether it is autism, neuro ADHD, whatever it is going on, when that little brain goes off on a world of its own, that's all the more reason we need these reminders and strategies. So
Yes.
that's why we're saying about, what did we say? Scatter to structure. That was the title there, wasn't Neurodivergent, Scatter to Structure. And we'd love to see more people achieve that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Nice one. Excellent. Excellent. Um, yeah, just the last. This is what there was a couple of things around just remembering for me, it's like remembering to leave the space to if yeah, on the calendar, if for some reason something doesn't happen here, I'll just take it and do it there instead. And uh, or I've noticed that I've done something else in different order. It's like the how and the order of things. If it's looked at overall, what gets to be done, without judgment or comparison, or but also if it relies on other people, then stick to those points, because that helps with whatever we want to achieve is working with people, not just in our own minds. So that's the main rule for me, is like, is it someone like meeting or doing something with, that's where timing absolutely matters, and then everything else can kind of modify, as long as I've picked the three things that I want to do, that it's easy to remember. I can break it down into, if it's a bigger thing, what's the first thing that thing represents that? So health, what's that one thing? Oh, I can go I can have a bath. Boom, I'll do that later. When here, or if for some reason it shifts, I'm still able to leave the time to do it. And so it maybe the structure of that day is different each time, but the things in the diary get done, and the meetings get met no matter what. The meetings happen. So that's the daily thing. The overall dreaming and imaginatory piece, dreaming and into what's wanted, That's the third. That's the second piece. And actually mentally rehearsing it, charging it up is the second piece, and then yeah, I think that's we've pretty much covered everything else. Just yeah, surrendering to a calendar, one place, and what there was something.
And
It's
getting
got
help if you need help setting it all up as well, or
yeah,
learning how to do it. It might be asking someone to talk you through it and not being, letting go of the fear of it. But yeah, no, it's been fantastic conversation, Rory. Thank you. And
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
we are here.
yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, we can help as well. Find us, book on the calendar. We're free. We have some sessions, one-to-ones, so we're definitely open for that. If anybody wants to book in a session with us, ask us below in the comments, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you see the video, ask for it and we can share the calendar link. You can book in a meeting with us as well. Yes, of course, that's all possible for both of us.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
For watching. Any comments, highlights, questions? Feel free to share them. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Thank you, Rory. It absolutely has. And again, don't forget to look out for the book launch event as well if you're seeing this before Thursday, the 13th of November, 2025. After that, the book is still available on Amazon, 30 Love Values. And this is all tagged up because there's some bits I'm going to read at the event. Yeah, we've got an amazing lineup this week, and I'm really excited to continue organising the schedule for this week, getting everything in the calendar. But no, it's been fantastic, and thank you for your help as well with all of this. And the final one is as well for the fact that somebody's developed all of these technologies and strategies and things. Is gratitude and gratitude that people have come up with ways to help us manage schedules and calendars and timings and life. And that's it. And when we do all of this, we have a much more free flowing, organized, controlled, but free life. And I think that's the thing I love about it is that sense of freedom I get from actually allowing things to happen in the right order. And it just takes a while to get there, but it's all good practice. And I think that's the thing, practice, practice, practice. But thank you, Rory. Great conversation. Thank you for joining us today on the High Leverage Actions again for all talking about neurodivergent scattered to structure with calendars and schedules. We will see you again for another topic next Monday.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.